Mayor Jay Wagner calling to order our 5:30 regular city council meeting. I believe we have all 9 council members present. Present on time and everything, so that's good. I don't really need to call the roll. Everybody's here. So we will then go ahead. I want to thank you if you're listening online. I welcome you to the meeting. Thank you to anyone who's here present, mostly all staff, I do believe. But we'll go ahead before we begin our meeting, and I'll ask everyone to rise, please, for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we begin, there are 3 recognitions that I would like to have presented to everyone. The first one is a proclamation regarding Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas children are vital to the city's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most valuable asset. And whereas children deserve to be safe, to have safe, stable, nurturing, and healthy homes and communities that foster well-being. And whereas parents need support and resources to cope with stress and nurture their children to grow to their full potential. And whereas the Kellen Foundation and all of the Guilford County Trauma Provider Network partners work to build resiliency in children and families impacted by violence through a coordinated community response team of victims, advocates, law enforcement, medical professionals, local trauma treatment providers, and human service agencies to address the needs of children exposed to violence and trauma. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships like the Resilient Guilford Network that are created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Now, therefore, I, J.W. Wagner, Mayor of the City of High Point, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to raise the awareness and increase their participation in efforts to support families, prevent child abuse, and strengthen the community. Next proclamation is regarding Fair Housing Month. Whereas April marks the 53rd anniversary of the passage of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, also known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, which sought to eliminate discrimination in housing opportunities and to affirmatively further housing choices for all Americans. And whereas the State Fair Housing Act was passed in 1983 to further enforce the fundamental right of fair housing opportunities for North Carolina residents. And whereas illegal barriers to equal opportunity in housing, no matter how subtle, diminish the rights of all. And whereas housing is a critical component of family and community health and stability. And whereas ongoing education and outreach are key to raising awareness of fair housing principle, practices, and responsibilities. And whereas the City of High Point supports and encourages fair housing for all residents. And whereas Fair Housing Month is time to set aside each year to remind Americans that we not only have the right to own and rent property, but it is an individual responsibility to guard this right from any infringement. And whereas equal housing opportunity is a condition of life in the City of High Point that can and should be achieved. Now, therefore, I, J.W. Wagner, Mayor of the City of High Point, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Fair Housing Month in the City of High Point. The third and final proclamation is regarding National Community Development Week. Whereas the U.S. Conference of Mayors, National Association of Counties, National Community Development Association, National Association for County Community and Economic Development, National Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies, National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, and the Council of State Community Development Agencies have formed a partnership to promote the 2021 National Community Development Week campaign, April 5th through 9th, 2021. And whereas this marks the 35th anniversary of the National Community Development Week campaign, this annual campaign is designed to focus local as well as national attention on the numerous outstanding accomplishments over the past 47 years of the Community Development Block Grant Program, and over the past 29 years of the Home Investment Partnerships Program. And whereas the CDBG program provides annual funding and flexibility to local communities to promote decent, safe, and sanitary housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to low and moderate income people. And whereas the HOME program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons. Nationally, over 1 million units of affordable housing have been completed using HOME funds. And whereas the Congress of the United States has declared April 5th through 9th, 2021 as National Community Development Week, and have called upon the President and all people of the United States to observe the week with appropriate ceremonies and activities. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Jay Wagner, Mayor of the City of High Point, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim today, April 5th through the 9th, as National Community Development Week, and call upon all citizens of our city to participate in ceremonies and activities celebrating the Community Development Block Grant and HOME programs. Okay, thank you, everyone. We have the time to do that. Next on the agenda is our strategic plan update. For that, I will turn this part of the meeting over to Councilmember Chris Williams, who will update us on our blight reduction. And then we will talk with Michael Holmes, who will talk to us about our marketing and branding initiative.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'll just read through this report with the LCE. The local code enforcement staff recorded 22 zoning complaints. A total of 73 public nuisance cases were abated, 10 by the city and 63 owner abated. Due to the pandemic, the LEC staff did not work on Saturday during this month. There are 4 properties with contracts out for demolition, and there are 2 housing cases with an ordinance passed for demolition waiting for repairs to be completed. This is 337 Wingo and 216 Underhill. There are 4 properties with ordinance passed in the appeal period. Demolition bids will be requested when the appeal period is up. There are 3 inspector positions open and interviews are commencing. During the report period, there were 450 total active cases, 237 active minimum housing cases, 90 active public nuisance cases, and 123 active zoning cases. Now I'll turn the floor over to Lori Loosemore.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I have a monthly presentation from March of some properties that were repaired. We had to take like about a month off. Can you put the presentation up? But we have, thank you. We have a couple of houses that were repaired. 418 White Oak. It's actually a duplex. We did not have any interior pictures that we could locate to show, but this is what the outside of it looks like. So of course, neglected and not taken care of. But it is a duplex, so it's going to be rental property. And so that's two units that'll be put back on the market. And they did a nice job on it. Pictures are. And the other was 311 4th Street. And this is what the outside of it looked like originally and some of the inside of it in the back. And this is now what it looks like. And that's all.
It's amazing what a little motivation to
A
do.
little bit, yes, they're coming along. But a lot of cities have had, I've talked to other cities and asked about this because I thought it was kind of unusual. I said, are y'all having good luck with housing getting repaired? And they said, yeah. So something about the pandemic's been good for us. Maybe not for everybody else, but for getting houses repaired, it's been good.
All right. Thank you, Lori. That's all I have, Mayor.
Councilman Holmes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last month, the Marketing and Branding Subcommittee, we did not meet. We had planned to have a strategic retreat, but during the planning of that, there were some pretty significant questions raised that I think we needed to answer before we engaged the public and key stakeholders in a retreat. One of those questions being, what is the city's financial or resource commitment, both financially or in man hours with our marketing team? What is going to be the outcome of that once we go through the retreat? Are we going to engage an outside agency to conduct this campaign once this is over? And those questions, I don't think we had the answers to be able to go forward with our retreat. So hopefully in our next manager's briefing, we will be able to, as council, have a discussion on what the commitment of the city will be for a full-scale campaign on both the marketing and branding side. Also looking at some of our traditional branding material, our logo, everything, all those things came up during the session. So hopefully we can have this discussion, determine those items, and then plan to have a retreat in mid-May. So hopefully we'll have those before our scheduled meeting for this month in April.
Thank you, Councilman Holmes. Okay. Next on the agenda is the public comment period. We did receive one public comment from a lady named Vesta Kennedy. It is in the, it's in your software. You can, under the public comment section, if you click on the little paperclip, it'll come up. It's, I think, some suggestions regarding Uncle Sam Jam. If anyone in the public would like to submit a public comment, we accept public comment the first meeting of each month. There are 3 ways to do it. You can call 336-883-3522 and leave a message. You can email a comment to publiccomment@highpointnc.gov, or you can drop a written public comment off at either of the utility payment boxes located on both the north and south sides of City Hall. All those public comments are forwarded to City Council and are incorporated in the permanent proceedings of the council meeting. Next on the agenda is the Finance Committee items, and for that, I'll turn the meeting over to Mayor Pro Tem Britt Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Finance Committee did meet, went over the items for this agenda. Pretty much standard operating type things that come up. There were a few new type announcements. The Samet Corporation has been approved by the Finance Committee to be our risk manager for our City Lake Phase 1 project, site improvements. And the others were mainly structure, water, sewer, that type thing. And then one that you don't see all the time, there is a resolution that we're looking at in here for the Nuclear Decommissioning Fund, which is something we pay into every year for the future anticipation closure of the Catawba nuclear facility when that time comes, which is probably 2045, something like that, Randy, is that right? So that's down the road. So those are a few things that were a little bit different. But these were all evaluated and approved by Finance, and I make a motion that the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Councilman Jones. Is there any discussion on any of the finance consent items? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the roll. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote? Aye. Councilman Johnson? Aye. Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson? Aye. The mayor votes aye. That item is approved by a vote of 9-0.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay. I don't believe there are any Prosperity and Livability Committee items, so we will then go to the Community Development Committee items, and for that, I'll turn the meeting over to Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item up is 2021-122, ordinance demolition of dwelling 1219 Reagan Avenue. And I'll turn it over to Lori.
If you could start, thank you. Good evening again. The first property that we have tonight is 1219 Reagan Avenue. The inspector did observe this property when they were on another case. We inspected originally on November 17th of 2016. We held a hearing on November 23rd of 2020. We were having notification issues. The owner is deceased, so we had to notify air property and advertise in the paper. No one appeared for the hearing. We issued an order to repair or demolish on December 3rd of 2020 with a compliance date of January 10th of 2021. We've not heard from anyone. We advertised in the paper, but I think it's her son also signed for the mail at another address. And they're delinquent in property taxes in the amount of $10,895 for 2012 through 2020.
All right. Is there any questions for staff on this item? All right, Madam Clerk, did we receive any public comment for or against this item? Thank you. In that case, I make the motion to approve item 2021-122, ordinance of demolition of dwelling 1219 Reagan Avenue.
Motion, is there a second?
Second, Holmes.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Holmes. All right, is there any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. So that item is approved by a vote of 9-0.
All right. Next up is item 2021-123, ordinance demolition of dwelling 611 Amos Street, adoption of the ordinance. I will turn it back over to Lori.
This property was inspected January 7th of 2020 and held a hearing on January 29th of 2020. No one appeared for the hearing. We issued an order to repair or demolish on March 26th of 2020 with a compliance date of May 1st of 2020. We've not had any contact with anyone from the property, and they are delinquent $6,551 for the years 2014 through 2020.
All right. Thank you. Is there any questions of staff on this item? Once again, Madam Clerk, have we received any public comment for or against this item? Thank you. In that case, I make the motion to approve item 2021-123, ordinance demolition of dwelling 611 Amos Street.
Second. Thank you.
I believe there was a second by Councilman Jefferson. All right. There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Councilman Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Item's approved by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you, Lori. The next item up is item 2021-124, amendment of the URP 20 Assistance Policy Amendment. City Council is requested to approve the amendment, urgent repair program. I'll turn the floor over to Mike McNair from Computer.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Back on the 15th of February, you approved an amendment to the procurement and disbursement policy for North Carolina Housing Finance, the URP. And they have since contacted us and said, well, we'd like you to put that same language in the assistance policy. So if you look in your package, you'll see this yellow highlighted language on page 4 of the amended policy. And it's the same language that was in the previous amendment. And so they just asked us to replicate that so the two policies complement each other.
Thank you. Is there any questions of Mike or staff? All right. Thank you, Mike. Being none, I will make the motion to approve item 2021-124, URP 20 Assistance Policy Amendment. City Council is requested to approve the amended urgent repair program.
Second.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Peters. Any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson? Mayor votes aye. The item's approved by a vote of 9-0.
Mayor, may I have a moment, please?
Yes.
I was remiss when you were reading the proclamation. Normally you ask me what's going on this week.
Oh, all right. I cut you off, I guess, by mistake.
And I
Not by design.
missed my opportunity to.
All right, not by design, but I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
This week, we're having a series of virtual events. Obviously, because of the pandemic, we can't have folks in the room together. The Mayor, thank you for kicking us off this morning. We have an event every day this week. This morning was for affordable housing. Tomorrow the subject will be homelessness. Wednesday will be food insecurity. Thursday will be services for adults and youth. And Friday will be neighborhood associations. In each one of those events, we have service providers, partners, community leaders, focusing on that particular issue that day. And even if you don't have the chance to be there and see it, it is being recorded and it will be on the city's website that you can access. A lot of good information that's being presented. So just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Mr. McNair.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I believe you're finished.
I am done. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. There are a couple of items on the general business agenda. The first one is asking us to endorse a resolution asking for us to endorse the name change for Guilford County Workforce Development to Guilford Works. And so I think we received some information on that earlier. And so I will go ahead and make the motion to accept that resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
I believe it was seconded by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote? Aye. Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson? Aye. The mayor votes aye. That item's approved by a vote of 9-0. I do have one item to add to the agenda before we get to the minutes. This is I'm asking for a motion to suspend the rules to add this item. It is a resolution opposing the passage of legislation in the General Assembly of North Carolina. It's Senate Bill 349 and House Bill 401. Is there going to be someone to explain this, or do you want me to do it?
Well, Mayor, so moved on me.
Okay. Okay, so I've got a motion from Councilman Williams to suspend the rules to add this item, and I believe that was Councilman Jones with the second. Is there anyone opposed to adding this item, suspending the rules to add this item? Okay, hearing none, then that item is approved to suspend the rules to add it by a vote of 9-0. So I'm going to recognize the Assistant City Manager, Greg Ferguson, to talk to us about this item.
This bill focuses on a number of changes that would weaken the city's authority under North Carolina law to utilize your current planning and zoning functions. Probably the most egregious is doing away basically with single-family zoning. And so your single-family zone would allow other zoning types so that it would no longer be a pure single-family zoning designation. That has the probability of having impacts on existing single-family neighborhoods. So the legislation as it was proposed, significantly weakens the city's authority in the zoning arena. And then it really erodes on the protection that you're able to afford a single-family neighborhood from some uses that those residents might not want to be adjacent to. So the bills that's currently proposed really gives that local authority, it removes it. So staff would recommend that you do oppose the bill.
So it's just removing that, I mean, that's one thing in it. I'm sure there's no bills that they write that small, but on that particular one, it's just removing that zoning designation?
Well, it would allow any multifamily or mixed, not mixed, but multifamily type product in a single family zone in the future.
Do you or anyone on staff know of this being a pattern in any other states?
There are proposals that are being floated in other communities. I mean, we read not long ago that there was some proposal along this line in the city of Charlotte. The North Carolina League of Municipalities white paper on this type of zoning change indicated that the state of Oregon had made some sweeping changes, but even their changes didn't go quite this far. It's positioned as being friendly to affordable housing, friendly to workforce housing, and basically the thought process behind it is that if a city is allowed to create single-family zones, then they're allowed to keep more affordable housing out because some single-family product is just too expensive. What's happened historically is cities have been granted pretty broad discretion to determine what area of town, part of town, adjacent uses are appropriate for multifamily housing. And that's based on local feedback to the city council, the planning board, and other parties. And then the city council ultimately, or through its planning board, enacts those zoning designations to determine where you need multifamily housing. And there's a host of factors that go into that, but broadly declaring that single family zones all over the city should be open to multifamily housing doesn't respect that local input process. And it takes away a sizable amount of the city's authority to determine and hear from its residents, and then for the city council to use that power.
Great. This is Councilman Holmes. So this bill, essentially, the interpretation of this bill would be that if a developer wanted to build in what was traditionally a single family zone, and our planning and zoning board voted against it, they could challenge that and cite this law as a reason to overturn that ruling from planning and zoning?
As we understand it, and this is based on our quick analysis, and I may look to legal, your existing single family only designated zones would then be opened up to multifamily housing. Now, how that would occur, not 100% sure. So for example, you have a development and they're granted the ability to build 200 units and they've already built 100. That might mean that they could build a 100-unit apartment building and they're done. But it also may mean something else that we don't understand. But at the very minimum, they would be allowed to build apartments in that single family zoning district.
So is that like similar to the, like when we have cell towers, we can't say, okay.
There are similarities in the amount of authority that this board would then have.
This is pretty historic in North Carolina and would be a major rebalancing of the zoning and planning powers that you've had historically. Maybe it's a good faith attempt to do something about affordable housing, but we would suggest that the city here does quite a bit already, and we would be willing to do more if the legislature granted some additional tools. But this is not really a tool. This is a sledgehammer that fractures the current framework and starts over. So it's really kind of a heavy-handed approach to trying to fix affordable housing.
Greg, do you think at this point, current zones for single family would be challenged if this law is enacted? or would they move forward in lesser developed areas?
That's a speculation. I'll go ahead and make it. Yes, I think there would be litigation filed if this happened. Now, whether it go anywhere or not, but some developers have made significant investment in plans to provide single family housing and might not want multifamily housing next to it. some homeowners have made significant investment decisions as far as where they've purchased property and may have purchased in a single-family neighborhood for whatever reason. So would it be litigated? Somebody probably somewhere in the state of North Carolina would challenge it. Who knows what would happen, but basically we just don't feel like it's well thought out right now. And the league also strongly encourages cities and towns to take an active role in letting the legislators know that this one needs more work.
Okay. Here's one thing I'd like to say before we vote on a resolution. We typically don't, as a body, take stands and pass resolutions regarding politics that's happening in Washington or in Raleigh. It's kind of been our way of doing business, is we do our business and we try to stay out of their business unless we're calling them to lobby them or something. But I think in a situation like this where it's going to have a direct effect on the authority of the city, I think it's reasonable for us to pass a resolution and state a position on it. And with that, I'll make a motion then for approval of this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Williams. Is there any more discussion on this item? Okay. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote? Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones? Councilman Jefferson?
Aye.
The mayor votes aye, so that item is approved by a vote of 9-0. Thank you very much. We have we have minutes to be approved. Are there any adjustments or changes to the minutes? Okay, motion to approve. Motion to approve been made by Councilman Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that down to my right? Councilman Holmes with the second on that. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none. Councilman Holmes, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Johnson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Peters?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore? Councilman Williams?
Aye.
Councilman Hudson?
Aye.
Councilman Jones?
Aye.
Councilman Jefferson?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Minutes are approved by a vote of 9-0. There is not going to be a Wednesday meeting this week because we didn't have any public hearing items. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
I believe that was Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Hudson. Anyone opposed to adjourning the meeting? Okay, if not, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.